I got one of those DIY mini splits, and I got an E3 error code, which is
catastrophic failure.
which is the first
Which
step.
is, you should have had a pro do it.
I got the idiot code.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fine Homebuilding Podcast, our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on houses. I am editorial director Justin Fink. To my left is green building advisor, editor Brian Pontolilo. And to my right is Keep Craft Alive executive director Rob Yagid. Do not attempt to adjust your podcast device. This is not a rerun.
This is real.
This is a special bonus episode being recorded in June
Reunion
of 2019, the reunion tour. We happen to have everybody in the office.
One stop.
Yeah, it's a one-off show. This is it's gonna be a bonus episode in your feed, obviously, and thought we would just catch up on what everybody has been working on since Patrick has taken the torch and is carrying on the legacy of the podcast.
Killing it.
Yep. I actually started to think to myself, oh, we should do a reunion podcast. And then I went, I wonder if anybody even's going to, is it a reunion? Because people just love Patrick.
Right.
Does anybody care?
They're like, oh, man,
Is this just for us?
Yeah,
I think
it
it's
might
just for
be.
us.
Yeah.
I'm having a great time already.
Yeah, this is just for us. All right, so the latest addition back to the family is Brian, who left because he had to move to Charleston, South Carolina.
Just had to.
just well, his wife made him. But we ended up bringing Brian back as editor of Green Building Advisor. So he's in the office to talk about some things related to that.
Yes.
Very excited.
Very excited.
Are you? Can you talk to us a little bit about what some of your plans might be?
Well, I can't talk to you about what some of my plans might be because I'm not sure yet. For anyone, this is the Fine Homebuilding Podcast, and so maybe we can assume that many of the listeners know about Green Building Advisor, but
They certainly know Martin because he's been on the show many times.
And Martin has been on the show, and Green Building Advisor for a long time has really been, has been Martin's baby. Mm-hmm. And he's done an exceptional
Since the beginning, pretty much.
Pretty
right?
much, yeah. He's done an exceptional job creating, really super deep and authoritative and informative and thoughtful content around. And this is where we get a little confused, right? It's called Green Building Advisor, but it's high performance building, it's building science, it's mechanicals. It's a lot like Fine Homebuilding in the way that it's green in the sense that if you do things well and if you do things right, that's green building. It's not so much. It hasn't been so much what many people might think of as green building, which is sort of materials and I don't know.
I think.
No, it's like sustainable. Well, green building when it came out was like about eco-friendly products. Essentially,
not so much.
And we hardly ever go down that road.
We hardly ever go down that road, except to occasionally have Martin, go on a little bit about that there is no evidence that you need to build a healthy home.
Well,
as long as you ventilate
still waiting
well.
on the data for that.
Well, I mean, there is parts of green building that are still there. I mean, Mike Maines contributes a lot that is very related to climate change. And
yes.
by the way, we wrote about climate change in the magazine several issues back. We're still getting letters about it. Well, I knew. I mean, we knew it was going to be a hot topic with people. And so I did a letter from the editor that explained, that we always get, that I consider the success of a controversial topic to be we get letters both for and against it after, saying this is the greatest thing I've ever read and this is the worst and I'm canceling. And we got just that. So to me, it was a success. We pissed off a lot of people and got a lot of other people excited.
Because of the content of the article or because of the topic and whether or not it's
both
real or not?
Mostly whether it's real or not.
Yeah. Whether climate change is real or not.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Fake news.
And
that's great. Whichever way it goes. But so I'm proposing that we change. Yeah, you can actually have an opinion now.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah.
Science. As Brian once said on a podcast, science.
Yes.
Yeah.
Period. Yes.
I'm proposing that we change the name of Green Building Advisor to just Brian Building Advisor or Brian's Building Advisor,
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That logo probably wouldn't look as good.
Well, it might if it's got a picture of me on it. So back to that a little bit. What, I'm going to step in. Martin's going to still be around on GBA, which is great. Martin is retiring, but he wants to continue to contribute, which is awesome. We're not going to lose his Musings of an Energy Nerd blog. And, my guess is that we'll see him around the site commenting here and there because he cares.
He's going to comment right on your stuff. Yeah. Everything Brian's saying is wrong. Here's why.
So we'll see what, and I don't think much will change, at least not immediately with GBA. I will be figuring out what my role is, be different from Martin's because I'm not Martin. So I'll be figuring out what my role is and I have some ideas.
Doing a lot of surfing.
Be doing a lot of surfing. I have some ideas for the site and, I want to work a little more closely with you guys at Fine Homebuilding than we have in the past with GBA, a little bit more closely with Keep Craft Alive.
And
have at GBA.
Maybe sniffings of a new podcast.
Maybe a podcast. I would really like to do a podcast.
I think there's gonna be a podcast, GBA podcast.
That's cool.
Yeah,
with Brian as host.
Yeah,
he's only been host once.
He was good at it too.
And he, according to his report, he crushed it.
Yeah, I would like to get a podcast going. I would like to see some video on the site eventually. What's amazing about GBAs are the Q&A forums. It's really spectacular. And
almost, a lot of the content that we talk about in this show overlaps with what we do at Green Building Advisor. So, like we were talking about it yesterday, Fine Homebuilding has to cover a lot of stuff. There's a lot of components in the house, and we have to do everything from the foundation to the mechanicals to the roof and, the siding. And GBA is just a way that we can kind of focus. We can cut out everything that's not related to high performance and energy efficiency and sustainability, durability, that kind of thing, and really focus in on that. So there's a lot of overlap because the same content you'll see on Green Building Advisor, you'll often see at Home Building, the same topics, but you won't see the extraneous stuff. If you're really just interested in high performance building, then Green Building Advisor is an awesome place to go.
Yeah, and I do want to give. Martin deserves tons of credit for what he's done with the site, but there's also Peter Yost, who is a technical advisor there, who blogs pretty regularly, who's amazing. Allison Bales, his building science blog is amazing. We have a behind-the-scenes guy, Scott Gibson, who works on the site, and he finds people from all different sort of industries to post guest blogs on the site that might talk about energy policy, sort of related but separate kind of topics, a little separate from building, but related to the sort of the mission of and people's sensitivities and sensibilities on Green Building Advisor. And then there's some contributors: Dana Dorset, Malcolm. I'm getting used to these names, so I hope I don't butcher them. But Malcolm Taylor.
How do you know butcher the name Malcolm Taylor?
Well, I think that's his name, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were mispronouncing it.
Bill.
I believe it's Malcolm. Malcolm Taylor.
And Bill. And these guys...
Also a tough one. Bill.
Among some other contributors, these guys are just superb with their knowledge and responses to readers should come, and a lot of questions, are people just popping in. They got there through a Google search. They're a homeowner. They got a question that's pretty specific.
You're gonna get pop-ins,
and you're gonna get pop-ins.
But you also have, I think you mentioned it, it's like the strength of the community.
That's what I'm getting at.
Because you do have those homeowners that pop in there every now and again, but you also have the mechanical engineers who that's their space, right?
Yes.
It's like GBA is. I can't think of another resource that's at the leading edge of building and building science.
Yeah.
What these guys are working on and exploring and talking about eventually trickles down maybe 5-6 years down the line to Fine Homebuilding or it's getting more widely adopted.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
like the tip of the spear, if you will.
That's what we're gonna be doing on our new event series in the fall, which I was on the show. I'm going to be on the show Friday, Jeff, I guess. I recorded this already, and we talked about
he needs an assistant all of a sudden.
I don't know what the time period is.
Needs a handler, an entourage.
Yeah. I'm going to be on the show tomorrow, but it was 2 weeks ago, talking about our event series in the fall. So when you listen to that episode, you're going to hear me announce it, or we'll just talk about it right now. We're doing this event in the fall in Southbridge, Massachusetts. You can go on to finehomebuilding.com/summit and get your tickets. They should be up and live.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Pretty killer. Pretty killer logo.
That's actually not the logo, but
it's more of just a font.
Logo's pending.
Typeface.
So what this is going to be is a 2.5-day event with 12 of like the best builders and building scientists and designers all in one place presenting on topics that are absolutely bleeding edge of high performance building.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've got mechanical experts. We've got Steve Basic's going to do the keynote. Martin Holliday and Peter Yost are going to be there. Mike Curtin is going to be presenting. Mike Maines, Jake Bruton, Goldman, talking about mechanicals, which I'm super excited about, getting the most out of ductless mini splits. So go onto that website, finehomebuilding.com/summit. Check out the event details so you can see what all of the hubbub is going to be about. And sign up because there's not that many seats to this thing, and it's going to sell out quick.
And Christine
Williamson, yes.
I have to mention her because
we're super excited.
I knew almost nothing of her for all the years that I worked at Fine Homebuilding. And then I got on social media just recently on Instagram, and I found the Building Science Fight Club, which is her. And her posts are amazing. Mm-hmm. Every time she posts something, I learn a ton.
Mm-hmm. It's a good mix because it's
a great mix.
You're getting some light commercial stuff mixed in with residential, right? From what I've seen.
With her, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
You're even getting some full-on commercial. I mean, she works on
like skyscrapers.
Sometimes, yeah. I spoke with her last week, and she was like consulting on like a 20-story, roofing membranes for like a 20-story building.
How do I become a consultant? I need a position on a board. That's step one.
Don't go down this road.
Step two, I want to be a consultant.
Follow Brian's path and go surfing. Don't get mixed up in all that.
Too much corporate.
Too much.
So what are you working on with Christine?
We're going to try to get something going about stucco failures.
Yes.
Yeah.
And am I speaking out of turn to say that her opinion is that this is the biggest catastrophe that is looming on the horizon?
She feels pretty strongly about it, yeah.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah, stucco is I think we can all agree that stucco has historically in modern building not been installed well, not been detailed well. Whether it's the building assembly, how it is separated or not separated from the building envelope, or whether it's the flashing details and connections to other materials. It's been a hodgepodge and largely a mess. And as you know, Justin, we can barely get anyone to talk about this.
We've been trying to get this story
for years.
The entire time that I've been working at Fine Homebuilding.
Yes.
We have not gotten somebody to write about stucco failures. And Patrick was down the path with a guy who was a stucco consultant and like remediation expert. And that homeowners are like these big communities of homes, and like the big McMansion builders would hire him to come in and consult. There was some areas of the country where they won't close on a house unless somebody like him comes in and assesses it for stucco damage, something like that. We got all the way down the path with him, and then he goes, I'm not writing about this because he feels like it opens himself up to liability for such a hot topic, because if people follow what he says and it doesn't work or they don't follow it right, now he's legally exposed, and it's apparently a really, really hot topic in that regard, and which sucks because people just want to know how to do it right, and the people that know how to do it are afraid to talk about it.
Yeah,
except for Christine. When I brought it up with her, she's like, I don't care, I'll talk about it.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she jumped right on it. So
and let's go back to what you said about it's fair to say that it's not been detailed well, because one of the things that we're having trouble with right now is that, according to Christine and other building scientists, is that it's really the code is not, like the code requirement is you need 2 layers of grade D building paper, right?
Yes.
And now they're saying, well, that's not enough, and that's why it's failing.
It says that you need 2 layers of grade D building paper and with offset seams, and that your drainage plane should be in between them. right? So the first layer is your drainage plane. So flashing details are incorporated into that plane, and the second one is the sacrificial layer. From what I understand, the idea here, well, I think there's two reasons why, and this I may not have enough information to get too deep into this, but at least some of why that is how it's installed. The first layer is going to be your drainage plane. It's going to stay protected by the second layer. The second layer, the stucco is going to grip it, and as the stucco cures, the outer layer, the stucco is it's going to be applied wet, and as it cures, it's going to grip and crinkle that paper, creating a drainage gap, an airspace between those two layers. Apparently, that just either doesn't actually happen in reality or is insufficient. And the building code does say, or you can put an approved WRB on your house and separate the stucco with an actual airspace. So either a built airspace, furring strips, with some sort of another layer of
wire mesh
something over it, and then your wire mesh to keep the airspace, or a product. There's products out there like Home Slicker with Typar and others that you can. What's the one I was just looking at? Sure Cavity I was just looking at last week.
Tyvek just came out with their own too.
Stucco wrap.
No, they have like drain vent or something. Oh. They have their own version of it just released.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
So the codes do say, if you want to do this, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Most building experts, scientists say just do that. Like don't go with the first option. Just go with the second option.
Kind of odd for the codes to be kind of like, well, if you want to do this, you can usually.
No, they say that more and more.
Yeah.
When I was looking at the codes for WRBs in general, there's the only WRB written into the codes is felt. Is 15-pound asphalt felt,
equivalent
and it says, or you can use an approved product, and if you use the approved product, you have to follow the manufacturer's instructions.
Right, but that's not the same thing as saying. Oh, is that so? It's basically the same language for stucco. Is what you're saying? I think it's the same
language for stucco, and then of course there's the exception with the WRB of, or if you have this type of masonry wall, or a wall that has been proven through testing not to be susceptible to infiltration from wind-driven rain.
Really?
You can do that. But you have to somehow, and I don't know what the testing.
Who's gonna choose to do the testing other than rather than putting up a membrane?
I guess I don't know. Maybe a production builder it's worth the time because then they're gonna replicate it.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Should I talk about the production building story that I heard?
Do I know it?
Yeah. Well, I mean the what I had heard through a source that shall be remain anonymous.
Ooh, anonymous sources.
You got to protect
a lot of secrecy around this stucco topic.
Protect your sources. Is that some of these large development builders know that stucco is a problem and know how to fix it, but they've determined that it is going to cost them less to roll the dice on it failing or roll the dice on, the litigation that's going to come along with it failing, because it's going to be cheaper, and that's going to probably be cheaper than just doing it right in the first place.
Or planned obsolescence, and they'll just start a side company on how to repair this stuff in 10 years, and built-in demand.
Stucco Fix.
StuccoFix.com.
Well, costs are certainly always a factor and always an issue. I was talking to the guy at Sure Cavity about his product, and he basically said, that for him as the a manufacturer of this stuff, that he knows that this product isn't going very far and will be obsolete soon, because people can't afford to use this, even if they're going to put an air gap behind their products. That the building industry is going to go to furring strips, because he said, I can't manufacture this product at a price point that I can get builders to buy it at.
Yeah.
He just said, I can't do it. And he said that story. He said, your real story is that the building industry is going to be using furring strips.
So people are going to do furring strips with lath over it, you think?
He was talking in general about for all kind of ventilated wall assemblies.
It's pretty inexpensive, and it works really well.
It works well.
Yeah. But I mean, for these developments, and we've talked about this before, the builders, believe it or not, are on razor-thin margins. Like, they're basically getting paid back for building a house, but they're making the money on the land. So when you start to add problems to the house that cost them more money to prevent, their numbers get screwed up.
Yeah.
And so they work really hard to avoid that, which maybe not the best.
Probably not the best.
Probably not.
So you guys want to talk about projects? Oh, wait, we didn't talk about KCA. Let's talk about Keep Craft Alive.
Keep Craft Alive, everybody.
What's happening?
Speaking
Where's
of
it going?
Keep Craft Alive.
Just keep craft alive.
Yeah, just try. Do your best.
Yeah.
Do your best. We need it.
Keep Craft Alive, or
Or pay attention to those margins.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Or repair it later.
Yeah, fix it later. What's going on with Keep Craft Alive? That's why I'm here today, right? We're having a conversation later on this afternoon about what we want to do with it, some updates, and
You didn't come to see me?
to come hang out with Brian, figure out what's going on with GBA. No, we're still trucking along with Keep Craft Alive. In 2 weeks, I think two and a half weeks, we're giving away 24 scholarships through
No big deal.
No big deal. Through our scholarship fund with Skills USA at the National Convention in Kentucky, which is super exciting. I got to review all those applications. Which Brian, I think you helped me.
I did it with you last year.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's fun.
I sometimes I forget that these are kids,
Yeah.
who are writing these essays, and so to hear what motivates them and their passions is sometimes I find myself smirking.
Yeah.
But actually a lot of them are really impressive too.
They want to make money to buy a dirt bike.
Yeah, some of them. But we've got a good mix of people. Lots of young women who have applied. Who are really passionate about things like masonry and carpentry and have found real value in that work. So that's super, super inspiring. So we're going to continue in that effort, no doubt. We've got a decent amount of partners that help fund that. And we've got our community that helps fund that through some of the events that we host. The big thing that I've been working on lately is this community outreach. I made mention of it, probably IBS. Kind of announced that, we're going to try to...
Right. International Builders Show.
Yeah. And so that's an effort, Justin and I have talked about how Keep Craft Alive is positioned and how we talk about it.
There's a shift, Brian.
There's not necessarily a shift in mission.
Yeah, no.
But there's a shift in the way we talk about it. I think...
That's what I said.
There's the quote-unquote skills gap, certainly buzzworthy and certainly an important topic that needs addressing in the construction industry and pretty much the American economy. But as I've seen our efforts evolve and I've seen other efforts in the industry kind of crop up, I guess I've been sensitive to how we talk about our mission. My goal is in fact not to address the skills gap. I almost don't care whether or not we close the gap or not.
Right.
I'm not here to prop up the construction industry, not here to kind of create some stability in the economy by filling these jobs. It's not of interest or it's not the focus. What I care about are the people. Right. Mm-hmm. I care about just acknowledging personal passions. And, if we as a culture have shifted so far away from working and building things with our hands and finding value in that, then that might be a reality. I'm not going to try to change people's minds and track them into careers that they're not going to be wholly satisfied with because there's a demand for it.
Yeah. Well, can I also interject here? Because Brian and I
probably can. You're the host.
We're having it's not really a title. Brian and I were having this similar conversation 2 days ago about he was going on a little tangent about how it's somehow in the minds of people it's become this two-path approach. It's like you either go to college or if college isn't right for you, then you're in trades.
Correct.
And it's like there's not two paths here.
Right.
And not only that, but you can be in the trades and go to college.
Yeah, for one thing, that doesn't make sense because you go into the trades because the trades are right for you and because you're passionate about it.
Right.
And conversely, if you want to go into the trades, you should maybe still consider going to college. College
Right.
doesn't mean college is a bad thing.
Totally.
Right. It's like they become enemies of each other or something.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing stuff for Keep Craft Alive over the winter, doing a little bit of writing for the site, that kept coming up in conversations with people and in things that I was reading, and I think that I've probably said it in the past, but I had never thought about how wrong it is.
Yeah.
How wrong that idea is.
It's really compartmentalized conversations. And then, what even bothers me more is that it comes down to like financial opportunity. And it's like, oh well, let's do this math. And does the college path does that yield greater financial gain, over a course of time, or do trades? And I was like, well, who cares? Do work that you enjoy doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's there's tons of opportunity on both paths.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it kind of, I felt myself clarifying that piece of it, and so that has led to an effort to try to, engage the community more strongly. The other piece is that I felt it, not to be disingenuous, but here in my own sphere, or even at the Fine Homebuilding editorial offices here, we could only know so much about what's going on throughout the country and in local markets and regions. And so, I mean, let's face it, we are office dwellers. Like we're in media. We're not in construction.
Or white collar workers.
And so, like, I also don't want to be up here telling students or kids or people who are in desk jobs, you know what, you should go and be in the trades.
Yeah. How come you didn't do it then, Rob?
Yeah. It is because I followed my passion for media. You know what I mean? And I've had a really enriching career, and that's what it was about to me. So, so it's not about like this top-down communication, which we do see elsewhere in the industry, which feels super strange
The people
to me.
who are preaching for you to go into the trades are the people that are on the board of directors who are going to profit from you buying their products in the trades.
Yeah. So
You say you wanted to get on a board.
I know.
Yeah. So there's some of that happening, right? And so
Not that kind of board.
So the efforts that I've been working on are really to kind of be more of a support role for the growth of local and regional communities centered around this Keep Craft Alive ethos. So I've been in touch with people in Detroit and Nevada and Arizona and Pacific Northwest. And what we're trying to do is just take this value set and this mission of, all of the brands that we work on, Fine Homebuilding, Keep Craft Alive, and Green Building Advisor, and bring them out of like this digital media space and put them on the ground in your local town. You know? And so I'm in contact with a bunch of people, and we're trying to pull together this kind of real grassroots effort to kind of just bring like-minded, passionate builders together and start to have a conversation about how we keep craft alive. Because it's going to mean different things in different places. There's going to be different needs. There's going to be different economic needs, different opportunities. There's going to be either trade schools in your area, or there's not. Yeah. And so, for instance, I'm working with Logan Bourne of Bourne Building Company.
Strong name.
He just hosted the first Keep Craft Alive kind of regional event in Detroit.
Oh, sweet.
And it was
Did Anthony Vitale go?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it was the report that I got back was it was super inspiring. People are jacked up. They feel like they found their tribe. And there was like that. I think people were surprised that even though that they worked in similar space, there was no competition, right?
Yeah.
This was all about like, how can we move the needle forward on the quality of the homes that we're building or our businesses? A lot of people are just getting into it, so they don't really have that resource.
Yeah.
And so it fostered a whole lot of like valuable conversation. And that's just going to snowball. We're already working on the second event that we might anchor around apprenticeships. Anthony has taken upon himself to start his own apprenticeship program within his own business. So how do you do that?
Right.
And then there's a couple of other more organized associations in that Detroit area that have formal apprenticeship programs and have been doing it for years. And so there could be this really enriching conversation about how to do that. What are the pitfalls? What are the liabilities? How to be successful in that? And that's just one event that that is being activated by the community because that's the need that they see in that area.
So how formal is it? I mean, do they actually form like a Detroit chapter? And they're going to have to like organize themselves into making decisions and planning.
That's future state. As I've expressed to people, and if people are listening and they're like, you know what, I don't have anybody in my community that I could really rely on, and you're getting inspired to maybe start a community, well, then definitely shoot us an email at info@keepcraftalive.com or .org rather. And I want it to be informal because I don't want it to be a big burden. These are volunteer opportunities. People are very busy, and I don't want to bite off. I don't want them to bite off more than that they could chew. And so I just want it to be informal. And I said, I don't want to come there with a mission and a mandate of like this. These are the things that you have to do. I really want it to be from the ground up. You know, I want you to connect with your fellow contractors and tradesmen and figure out like, well, what do we want to do here?
Yeah.
You know, Logan had also said like maybe just having open shop days where, you know, you could invite people and students from local trade school to come and hang out at the shop and talk about what they do and their career path and that sort of thing. So they don't have to be these big monumental lifts, and they don't have to be these big, you know, 100+ you know, person events.
Right.
It's just starting the conversation, because if I were to, let's say, or if Justin were to, you know, jump into the building game tomorrow, where would we?
All right.
Justin's like, sign me up. You know, like, do you feel plugged into a contractor community that is going to inspire you or inform like how you build? Right.
No.
I mean, there might be a home builder association in your area. Right? That's the reaction.
Yeah.
But is it that leading edge, progressive, kind of fine home building-esque kind of environment that you want to be in?
It's the tribe thing that you're talking about.
It's a tribe thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, that's lacking. And so I'm just trying to ignite that opportunity in pretty much every region possible.
And so many of these contractors and subs, you know, they work solo. So it's pretty isolated.
Yeah.
And it's like that story you told a long time back. I think it was you, where you were working on a house like way out in the middle of nowhere,
That's
and it's like you start to just not care. It's like, why do I care about this?
I still
like,
remember it.
It doesn't matter.
I could feel the cold in my bones right now.
Yeah.
Because and it was like one of those projects where I was building like a pole barn or something, and it was like the client could care less. Mm-hmm. I was like pretty much alone in like a rural setting, like nobody. I was just like, well, you know, and I had these aspirations to be in media, but this was like, you know, a stepping stone to that kind of, I guess, obviously given my career track. But yeah, I mean, it's an isolated thing. And granted, yeah, people are glued to their phones right now. Like that community does exist to a degree in Instagram and social media, but we live in the real world, and I don't think anything could replicate getting together with some like-minded people, having a beer, having a conversation, and creating those real human kind of connections and relationships, and like doing really impactful work on your own accord to improve the situation in your region.
Yeah.
So Brian, let's talk about the North Carolina chapter. Where are we at?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Whatever
you could try you could give it a shot in North Carolina.
It would be interesting, and it would, and I know where I would do it already, and maybe I will at the American College of the Building Arts, which I'd love to make a plug for while we're talking about this, because if you
I want to go there. I also want to go to technical high school though.
Well, yeah.
I'm just gonna start over.
Start over. If you want to, you know, a great place that this discussion that we've had, we can kind of wrap it all together in this institution, the American College of the Building Arts, which is at least they say, and I haven't actually verified this, but they claim that they are the only 4-year accredited college that offers a hands-on building education. So it's you go to the American College of Building Arts for 4 years, you get a bachelor's degree.
Oh yes.
And
do they have any master's programs?
I think they have one master's program. Might be architectural. Not sure. They definitely have some associate's programs, some certificate programs for people who want a faster track to the trade that they're interested in. This place, you take a liberal arts core curriculum. So you're in the classroom, you have your Englishes, maths, and all that. You have to learn architectural drafting, drawing. Starting with doing it by hand drawing, and then moving into CAD later on after you've mastered.
Did they teach you how to write your font like architects do?
I bet they do.
I need to learn that.
So in each of these areas, they have I think they call them capstone projects. And there's like, so for example, in the drawing class, before you can move on and take your CAD classes, you have to be able to replicate on your own this this architectural drawing from like, you know, with like of a Greek structure with like all the Greek, you know, classical Greek proportions and stuff. And you have to be able to do it and master it, you know, before you move on. Same thing when you get into the shop, where you do the other portion of your education, depending on whether you're in the masonry program, the building, the architectural carpentry or timber framing programs, the blacksmithing programs. When you go into the shops at first, you know, in the carpentry program, for example, you learn to use hand tools before you touch the power tools. In the what's wonderful is in the blacksmithing program, you have to start by making your tools.
Perfect.
First thing you have to do is forge the tools that you need. And I met with a whole bunch of people down there a few weeks ago. One of the people I met with will be in the next issue of Fine Homebuilding, the chair of the timber framing and carpentry department. And he did this French gentleman did
Bruno
did a 10-year
Strong
apprenticeship program in France. He started at the age of 15, and for 10 years he worked as a timber framer during the day, went to the shop at night for skills classes.
Lived in the house.
Lived in the house with everyone else who was doing this program, and on the weekends had another type of learning in terms of timber framing. 10 years.
Traveling through, I think, several countries, too.
Traveling through at least several regions of France. But
just moving
all
frames.
around doing this.
It's the best part.
What's the best part?
Tell him what he gets at the end of it.
Oh, yeah. At the end of it, you get nothing. He said, I don't have a diploma. He said, I got nothing when I was at the end of it.
You've got knowledge and skill.
You've got knowledge and
now
skills.
Go make something of it.
But I was telling Justin, like, if you want to know how to timber frame anything, build a timber frame anything, there's no doubt about who in this country you should go to. And it's this guy, Bruno, at the American College of Building Arts in Charleston, South Carolina. He was showing me a spiraling, conical, timber framed roof. And when I asked him questions about building it, he could answer my questions.
What does a spiraling roof mean?
He doesn't have to figure anything out. Bruno just knows how to do everything when it comes to timber framing.
And I believe
the rafters spiral around the cone shape.
Are you kidding me?
Of the roof.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding you.
Wait, let me think about that. And I think, Bruno was pretty much hired by the school to take his experience, that 10-year experience, and try and condense it into a 4-year program, which would be
an accredited program. So he was
fitting for an American.
Yeah.
God damn it.
And it's really cool to visit there. I the 2 times that I was there, there's all these students. Could call them kids, but they're young adults. But and they're all in the shop, practicing their skills. And this isn't classroom time. This is their study time. They're in the shop. They're cutting dovetails, or they're cutting a mortise and tenon on a little small timber that they practice on, or they're in the blacksmith shop making a new tool so that they can make the thing that they wanted to make.
I'm glad that you brought it up, because I think that's the other thing that we'll probably discuss this afternoon about Keep Craft Alive is to hone in on that, right? I mean, I know can be perceived as an extreme end of building, but really we are talking about Keep Craft Alive, and we're not talking about just home building. I mean, that's not what Fine Homebuilding is, And I think part of my negative reaction to the skills gap conversations because we've been hearing it so much. We've been hearing it from manufacturers, and their solution is to take the knowledge and the skill base out of the product or out of the process.
Right.
And so they'll introduce products that lick and stick and click together, and it's like that's not interesting.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been sitting on that phrase?
I don't know. I probably can't say it again. But that's not a solution that I'm stoked about.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
That's just a race to the bottom, in my opinion. And so let's really honor the fact that craft does exist. Craft is possible. Is it for everybody? No. Is building for everybody? No. But let's just hone in on the people that have that aptitude, that interest, and who aspire to carry on the legacy of true craftsmanship. And let's pour fuel on that fire and see where it goes.
And not necessarily just for a romantic notion. It's not because we're afraid of houses being built in a factory.
This isn't novelty. This is this is fine home building.
Right.
That's what it is. Right. That's what it's always been. So, and it's viable now as it has ever been.
Yeah.
It's just we just need to be the ones to have that conversation, because it's getting, obviously it's been kind of suppressed due to all these other conversations about value and what meaningful work is and what financially profitable, careers look like. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited to see where it goes. It's really inspiring to connect with people on the ground who are as jacked up as I am about it and who are willing to take that next step. So for sure, get in touch. Yeah, it's going to be a fun ride.
And you can check out, what feed can you check out Logan Bourne's
Born
I guess you just go right to his.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's Born Building Company. I mean, check him out. Yeah, he's like,
because you can see photos of what it was and kind of get a sense of what the event is.
We've got an article up on keepcraftalive.org about that event, so you can take a look at that article to see like what the format and what the flow was looking like. But you would work directly with me on execution. So yeah, hopefully I hear from some of you.
Yes. Brian, can we hear a little bit about your life in Charleston now? What it's been like to leave your house and move into an apartment, and what's the style down there? What's your plan for the next project? Do you miss projects? All of these things.
How's life, Brian?
Begin.
Well, I can tell you that the first thing I can share, because this happened shortly after I stopped being on the podcast. I had talked a lot on the show about remodeling my own house.
Yeah.
And as
cabinets.
we all have cabinets. That was about 6 months of the show.
Yeah.
But so I left. I stopped working full time last July, and I spent a few weeks wrapping up the sort of the punch list. I went working on the punch list for my house, which I had been remodeling pretty much the whole time I lived there. And I wrapped it up and listed it for sale and sold it in a week. And moved out a month later, and was really interesting to move out of the house. The moving out days were the days when I realized how much I liked my house, how much I liked all the work that I did on the house, and how much it really suited us because all the work was personal and was done for us. And that was I can't say that I've missed the house since, but that moving out process, I wanted to move back in, and well also.
Tear up the contract.
So one of the things that we never did
Once it was empty.
Yeah, we never thought about furniture or art or anything like that for the finished house, because we never had the finished house. It was always like, oh, let's get a bed. We need a bed, so let's get something. But the bedroom wasn't done yet, or let's just hang that on that wall there for now. It was kind of happening in that way. And as I was moving out, it was like, oh, it would be so much fun to now actually buy furniture and things that suit this house.
You should have bought it back from yourself
and move back into the house. That would have been a blast. Anyway, so we've been out of the house for a while, and through the winter, December, January, February, March, I worked as carpenter. So I wasn't missing doing projects. I was actually working on a kitchen build in a remodel, and it was actually it was a very challenging process for my carpentry skills, because it was where a house from the early 1700s met some new construction, and so everything was a little weird. Everything, every ceiling was far out of plane, out of level, out of square. Everything was scribed. I worked with a wonderful carpenter who taught me lots of tricks for things like scribing, things I'd never even seen in our magazine. So you might want to get on some of these tips that Chris has lined up.
Former FHB editor as well.
Yeah. How about you get on it?
And I really pondered during that work the role of the builder, the role of the remodeler or the carpenter, whoever's working on a house. Last summer I had, maybe we talked a little about this, but last summer I had gone on. We were out on the West Coast for a show, PCBC show, and I had gone on a tour of what they consider affordable houses in the South Bay. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was just like causing me a little bit of one of the things that was stopping me up was that they called everything product. They called the houses product. And that didn't work for me. Something about it didn't work for me. And at first I thought what didn't work for me was that a house isn't a product because it's a home. Ultimately, it's a home, and there's no emotional connection to product. There's emotional connection to home. There's meaningful connection to home that doesn't exist for me anyway in the word product. And so I was really not happy with that, with this tour and that term and the way they were looking at houses as products. But then it became more clear this winter when I was working on this project, and I was working with a carpenter who cares too much, with a homeowner who was too involved. She was great, actually, but was too involved, and on a really challenging work, skill really challenging work. And what I realized is that it's not even that it's a product or a home versus a home. It's the fact that what we were doing was a service, and that we had to consider it to look at it as not a finished product, not that kitchen as a finished product. Because if you make all your decisions based on a finished product, you've completely left the client out of the equation. And it's a service, and you need to keep their interest in mind every step of the way. And that includes so many things, right? It includes the quality of the end result, the quality of the product. It includes how they're going to live in this space and how they're going to use this space. It includes the health. This was cabinetry, but I was also looking around at the detailing of some of the new construction and the old construction, things that were and weren't done to manage moisture issues and whatnot. And you got to consider the health of the project, but also your client's got a budget and you got their money to consider, and just every little thing kind of matters and should be weighed in all of those aspects of the work should be weighed. And there's much more than that, of course, that needs to be weighed. And it's really to look at it as a service for me keeps that person. You said it. It's about people.
Yeah.
Rob said it. This is about people.
I said it.
And I think it's true as we're doing work on a project too. It's not about that work, and it's not about being able to take a pretty picture and put it on our social media. It's about the person who's going to live with it when we walk out the door. Right. And the person who paid the bill and all that stuff. And that all kind of ruminated in a new way for me. And maybe it was because I was back on a job site, making money on a job site for the first time in a long time after I had gained a whole lot of knowledge, in my brain working here for all these years, but hadn't actually been on a job site executing a project for a person. And I think that's so important for me anyway. That's if I do that work again in the future, which I imagine I will because I really love it. At some point, I imagine I will. That's the only way to look at it.
Is this you resigning from the job you just started?
That was quick.
So
you know what? I'll join you, Brian.
So that takes us to South Carolina, where I am now, where I live in an apartment, and there's nothing I can do. I got my tools stuffed in the corner of the place. And
what made the cut? What'd you bring with you?
I brought all my hand tools, tool bag and all my hand tools, and I actually sold my table saw and miter saw, two big tools, because it was time to sell them anyway and not move them. I would if they were working fine, but
wouldn't fit in the back of your motorcycle.
It wouldn't fit in the back of my motorcycle, and I was ready for an upgrade. And all my smaller power tools I still have. They're just not down there with me yet. They're in my mother-in-law's garage. So when the time is right, they'll come down. I knew that when I first got down there, I didn't know what kind of work I was going to do. So I brought enough stuff that I could walk onto a job with the tool belt on, outfitted, and go to work. And what I decided to do, and I've always had this in the back of my mind as something that I'd like to do, but I decided to do was to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. So I've been going Saturday mornings and working, and it's I have to say, I'll be honest, it's selfish. I just want to do some carpentry. Yeah. I just want to work on a job site, and that's what got me there. However, it's a great mission. So and really I'm impressed by how many people show up to do. Most of those volunteers on the Habitat jobs, at least down there, most of these volunteers are like sweeping floors, moving material around. They're not doing the fun stuff.
Are you running the job sites?
Not yet.
Be honest. Be honest.
Give it another month, Rob. Yeah. Brian sees a lot of flaws in how this is going down. He's gonna.
I know we're building a wall. Can we do a double stud wall, please?
Yeah. But the volunteers are doing good. They're doing good stuff, and maybe it's a little bit selfish for me to be getting my carpentry fix in or my job site fix in, but it's no doubt it's a wonderful mission.
You're also no doubt have a lot to teach people who want to upgrade from sweeping the floor to fastening the baseboard. You know?
We'll see how it goes. Right now, what I'm just sort of like taking it slow, and if they want me to, the construction manager knows that I have skills, and so he's put me on, right away he put me on, installing flooring the first day, installing baseboard the second day. He's just like, how to install baseboard, right? Go do it. Yeah. But at the same time, when I finish, then there's sweeping floors to do, and I'm glad to do that too.
Right.
So
you love sweeping.
I do love sweeping floors.
Is there any picking up of sticks in the yard?
Yeah, it's better than raking.
Do you miss that?
We
haven't hit fall yet, I guess.
We haven't hit fall yet.
You haven't missed a fall yet, but there's no sticks to pick up in an apartment.
There's no stick. I'll find some.
showing up people's yards.
We'll go rake the beach.
Brian's stick pickup service.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where.
But I mean, you going to move to a house? Is his apartment living where it's at?
That remains.
Are we going to see a project?
That remains to be seen. We signed.
I don't even know what the housing market's like down there. I mean, can you get can you buy an old house like a fixer upper and it's within reach of an average salary, or is it like, San Francisco?
It's not like San Francisco.
Okay.
Downtown Charleston, like downtown any city, is on the more expensive side. But there is stuff in Charleston that is within reach of, a more middle class, lower or middle class family. And especially if you're willing to, and what I'd love to do down there, I love the Charleston single. It's a really cool house style that I don't know if it exists anywhere else in any other southern cities. I've only seen it in Charleston. It's a narrow usually two-story building, gable facing the street, and it's got a side-loaded porch. So right down the side of the house, there's usually a two-story porch. It's interesting because the front door to the house, which is an exterior-looking door with exterior-looking trim on the street facing facade. You would walk up those steps, open that door, and go onto the porch.
Really?
Yeah, and then the front door into the house is on the side of the house. And what a lot of and I don't know the history too well, but what seems to have happened is over the years, a lot of these houses have been remodeled into two families. And the way that they do it and conserve space is they take the stairs out of the interior of the house and they put them out on the porch. So now you don't have to have a two-family where the second floor apartment goes inside the house to go up. You go up outside.
That's cool.
And so they make these really excellent two-family houses. And right away, my dream was to find one of these that needs some work, and to be able to live on one floor, rent out the other floor, and
would you take the top
and work
or the bottom,
on the house? It's a good question. I've thought about that quite a bit.
It's like having the top or bottom bunk.
Good top.
There's a lot to think about.
It's a lot to think about.
Second floor, but
I'd go second floor, yeah.
Well, I would go second floor. The only being considerate of the people on the first floor.
Yeah.
I get up early and practice yoga.
Yeah.
It's pretty quiet activity.
It's not like you get up early and practice the drums.
Right.
How loud is yoga?
It's not very loud, but I think about that every morning.
I can hear Brian meditating up there.
I think about that every morning because I'm on the second floor, and I'm up pretty early, and I'm like walking around. I'm like, should I be on the first floor? Let them be on the second floor. I'll listen to them.
Okay.
Right. I don't know. We could talk about this for
whole thing might not work.
We could talk about this for much longer, but I don't think we should.
All right, so possibly getting a
multifamily.
What is it called? A
Charleston
single.
Single.
It's really neat style. Check it out.
You have a
Google
photo of it on
Charleston
your
single,
Instagram feed, I think.
I've got a photo and a little bit of a story. The little that I know about them.
Yeah.
What's also cool, and you'll see if you do look on bpontolilo at Instagram.com.
No, that's not what it is.
If you look on my Instagram page, what you will also see is that this style exists in all of the neighborhoods in Charleston. So you go into the wealthiest neighborhoods with the most elaborate homes, and you'll see Charleston singles, and they'll be really elaborate. And if you go into the more middle class and sort of more affordable neighborhoods, you'll also see very simple and plain Charleston singles.
Yeah.
And that plan is the same from one to the other. It's really cool.
Huh. Robert?
Justin?
Your upstairs is finished.
My upstairs is complete.
I've seen it. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Now what's next?
What
have you done lately?
Now what?
Aren't you doing something?
Yeah.
For Rob's house?
I've hired an elite carpenter.
Yes.
To build some built-ins in my dining room.
Yes. We're going to be doing dining room built-ins that frame a doorway. So it's going to be on either side of a doorway with a cornice that connects the two.
So you'll be walking through
from dining room to living room.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so
I've been working hard on that.
Rob still hasn't
wrote that check for materials.
Rob needs to pick a color.
Did you draw the
plans? His involvement. No, I came over and drew them. The interesting thing was that
I guess you should clarify. Yes, I've hired Justin to do this project.
I feel like our aesthetic is either I know Rob well enough, or we both like the same basic style that I drew one thing at his table while we were talking about it. I went, "How about this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sounds good."
Yeah, remarkable client. I am.
Remarkable designer I am,
Yes.
Brian.
I'm having Justin build them because Justin is a skilled carpenter, has a great shop.
I did finally get my shop. So this is to catch up. Well, first of all, I think we need to officially start a hashtag for this project. Hashtag Yagid project. Starting this week, there will be posts following this project from start to finish. Mostly because I need an excuse to actually get my phone out and take a picture, because I tend to not want to take my phone out in the shop because I get distracted by it. But so sometime after I stop posting the podcast, between then and now, I've moved out of this factory space that I had my shop in, and I moved it back home to the 2-car garage. I didn't really want to pay the rent for it anymore. I missed being able to pop out there to do a little something quick, and it just made more sense. So I moved back home, and then I spent about 3 months or so trying to organize it. And I would go inside and talk to my wife and be like, yeah. She's like, what are you making? I'm like, no, I'm just organizing. Just getting. And you go out there and it looked like absolute chaos.
So
like,
you didn't take while you had it empty, you didn't kind of get it ready?
No, because I had to move everything in at once. And
you decided to do this on Saturday morning, and it was done on Saturday afternoon. That's what happened.
Yes. No, it was moving it was brutal.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, because I'd invested in some heavy tools at this point, like an 80-inch jointer, a panel saw that I had picked up used. I mean, I had a lot of stuff, and now I had to figure out how to take all this stuff and condense it down to 2-car garage.
Yeah.
And once you move everything in, then it's just moving everything around in order to move the thing around that you want to. And I had to move stuff into a couple different configurations until I was satisfied, because you can work it out all you want on paper. I don't care what anybody says. Put it on paper, and then you stand in the room after you've arranged it based on your plan, and if it doesn't feel right, it's off. And I just knew, I could tell immediately, I just couldn't get it. I couldn't figure out how I wanted it to be set up. And then I finally last week got it nailed.
Just in time. And
so I bought the poplar for Rob's built-ins for the face frames, and I milled maple actually. I milled up I was gonna buy soft maple, and I was like, yeah, poplar's good. I enjoy working with it more. It's all about me. And I ran those boards through, and I was like, all right, it works. Confirmed. Now we're up and running. Except that my mini split died.
Oh, it's in the shop, the mini split.
Yeah,
that you were talking about.
I got one of those DIY mini splits, and I got an E3 error code, which is
catastrophic failure.
which is the first step.
Which is you should have had a pro do it.
I got the idiot code. Yeah. And so I call up for a warranty claim, not really knowing what to do here. Do I get a whole new unit? Like, do I get anything? Is it pretty much, well, tough luck, buddy?
Yeah.
Of course, I assumed it was like, you've lost the charge in the lines, and now you're going to have to call an HVAC guy to come over and, shame you and fix it and shake his head at you trying to install this yourself, this piece of junk or whatever. So they get on the phone with me, and they're like, oh, it's most likely the fan motor. Well, so we'll send you a new one, and there's a video online on YouTube that walks you through the whole process of installing it. So I was like, all right, cool. I watched the video. It was excellent. The job was a little tough to make it work. Like it took some doing. It was like working on a car. You had to move a lot of parts and like sneak it in, and you have to take apart the mini split head essentially to get this part in, and that didn't work. And so I called him up and I was like, hey, that didn't work. And he said, yeah, it's probably the motherboard. We'll send you a motherboard. And I'm going like, and now I'm starting to clue in. I'm like, okay, so this is just.
You want to send me the whole new one?
Yeah. Can you just cut to the part where
you send me a brand new one?
Yeah, like what happens when this doesn't work? Because it's hot in there, and I want to get this fixed. So I should be having that in the next day or two. And hopefully that fixes it.
While you're talking, the only thing I'm thinking about is how you managing the moisture content of my material.
That's what I need to. How can I? How can I begin this project? How can I begin this project in earnest when my temperature is not stabilized? Moisture content's all over the place in there.
Oh, better not be late though.
What's the delivery date?
Rob wants it in like a week.
No, I don't know what I said. I said like
he probably wants it ready for Thanksgiving. He's a family man now.
He wants
July.
He wants it next month.
For the 4th of July.
Yeah.
It could be after 4th
Sure, we'll
of
go
July.
with that.
But that's a good deadline.
It's really what his wife wants. Rob has no say. But you've been working on something else in the meantime. It's not that you've been slacking off totally.
No, I'm working outside. I'm doing some hardscaping and landscaping. Finally had to do the front steps and front walk, which had I mean, you saw those steps, right? They were the original steps. They were mortared together stone they probably settled a good foot.
They were sloped towards the house pretty heavily too, weren't they?
I think they started to slope the other way.
Oh, okay.
But I think that first step was completely submerged.
It was ground level.
Yeah, it was ground level. It was grade level. So, so here again, I was
you added one on top, and he moved on. Yeah.
So, I'm stoked to do these projects, but I also want to do some other things with my life at the moment, like spend time with my daughter and the family and that sort of thing. So I did wind up getting a quote for to have this work done. To remove, the walkway and to demo the steps and to have new stone steps built. It was pretty pricey. It's pretty pricey. It wasn't unfair, but it was just one of these things like, okay, like I could do this work and I could either go to Europe with the family for a couple of weeks or I could put that money into the ground out front. So I had the conversation. I was like, all right, we're doing this and I'm gonna jump in. Also, I let the mason know and let me know if this is like one of those annoying things that clients could possibly say. I asked him, I was like, if I have this all cleaned up for you and the site prepped and ready to roll and you just came in here and had to start the process of actually building, would that help out on the price at all? He said he had to knock a couple $100 off.
Right, because that's not the part that's expensive.
Yeah, I figured that. He also, sorry, I'm getting a little flexed. He also, because he also said, he said, you can't do this. He's like, it's going to take you forever to pull all this stuff out.
Oh, that's just going to piss me off.
I immediately said, thank you, good day, sir. Went and got a sledgehammer and demoed that thing within like 4 hours.
That's interesting you say that because I believe I was having a chat with Rob on text messages at the time this went down, and I believe the way it really went down was his wife said, "Where's the sledgehammer? I'm going to go take care of this." And Rob said, "I got to go."
That's what I said. Yeah, that is true.
She's pregnant, by the way.
She's pregnant, by the way. And so she ripped up half the walkway within like 5 minutes.
Oh, she's
like,
great.
So,
so what is the new plan? Are you doing a walkway? It's a walkway and
steps.
Okay.
But I've got a lot of site work to do because there had been so much settling in the front yard there.
Right.
So I've been hitting up Dunnings left and right, which is the local gravel.
After you told me that story, I went back to try and find the podcast where I was telling the story about going to the quarry.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out which episode it is.
It's a good one. You should listen to it.
Yeah.
Find it. But yeah, it's awesome.
So you got to get the grade figured out before you can.
Yeah.
Before you.
Brian,
can
you're
start.
pping over Dunnings, which is like
we're gonna revisit it.
You got to go to this place. It's like you hang out there, and it's just like
just like clockwork. And there's like the loaders are huge. It's like the biggest models that they have, and those guys and women fly around on those things like with such like skill. It's awesome. Big trucks. Yeah, it's just aggressive.
Yeah, and they're like The thing makes a pickup truck look so small. You're like, please don't destroy my truck when you drop this gravel.
Yeah.
So I've been working on the grade and what I do. Oh, and so I've been kind of going back and forth on the actual steps. Like, all right, I'm going to do the steps myself, which I'm not totally opposed to doing yet.
And you were going to do block with stone veneer on it?
Possibly.
Are you doing gravel walkway?
Those are going to be pavers. So I'm going to have to do the whole kind of.
So what's the gravel that you picked up then? Just base course stuff?
Oh, well, so I went to the back of the house.
You got sidetracked.
I went to the back of the house and I took there was some grass between like the driveway. You guys know what this is, but there's a narrow.
You guys being the audience.
Yeah. There's a narrow strip of grass between the house and the driveway.
It's like 3 feet, 4 feet.
At the back of the house, and I don't want grass. I'm trying to get rid of some of that grass. And so I took the grass off and dug down some of the topsoil, moved the topsoil to the front, and then put, what is it? What is the white stone?
You knew the exact stone name.
You have it too.
I don't know. I do?
Yeah. Pea gravel?
Yeah. But it's white. It's like they have a name for it at Dunnings.
Okay.
Oh, you mean the pea stone stuff?
Yeah.
That's what you got?
Yeah. And so I filled that in.
It's excellent.
So I've been grabbing material as I could and moving it around front. I got gravel, process gravel yesterday to kind of build a pad and start to level that all out for where the steps will go. And I am contemplating precast concrete only because of the price and the efficiency of installation.
So you've already put.
How you gonna move it? Strong men?
No, they're gonna come and drop it and the
precast concrete.
Yeah, no.
So if you do the,
Tough.
let's forget about the precast concrete. Let's just forget about it.
I agree.
Those are looks that I make.
Jeff, we can edit that out, right?
No.
If you do,
I'm not an elitist.
Yes, you are.
I know. That's the problem. But go ahead.
if you do the block
Yeah.
and the stone,
Yeah.
do you need a footing? You gonna pour a footing?
You should.
You should, right?
I mean, you could.
So you can't put your gravel in yet.
No, I mean,
Not
you could.
if you're putting your gravel in,
Yeah.
that means you've already made the decision to go for the precast.
Yeah.
Well, how much
concrete.
gravel did you put in? Because you could put down a big bed of gravel, like a big, deep, highly compacted one.
And
I'd
then
be
skip
fine.
the footing?
So I don't know.
It's the same thing.
I will say that I don't know how deep. I didn't excavate completely the old steps. So I don't know if that is. Obviously, it's not on a solid footing when it was built in 1930.
1998.
1998. Because there was settling going on.
Wait, so what I'm hearing here is that you didn't dig up the old steps.
I brought them down to grade.
And
I busted them apart and left as much solid stone as I could in the ground
as a base.
as a base.
Because you figured it has now sunk to its lowest
Yes.
level.
Yes.
And what is making you think that?
Time. I
don't know, Brian.
And so I brought gravel in, and I'm
Just step in there
I'm
and fix this whole thing.
likely gonna do precast concrete and then landscape it in, and it's gonna look fine.
I'll tell you what, when I come to deliver these built-ins, I am not walking across that concrete stoop. We'll pass it through the window.
You know what? You're not, because nobody comes in the front door; they come in the back door.
I'm not fitting those things through the back door. Come on now.
That's true. They come in the front door.
Are you gonna finish these built-ins?
Yes, Rob has to pick a color, which I'm...
What color do you think, Brian?
Gray.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
It's gonna be a shade of gray.
It's gonna be a shade of gray. It's Rob.
Brian, would you go for the interiors? Because it's going to be a mix of, so it's essentially like a hutch style kind of
like
thing.
a
So you
step
got
back
some
hutch kind of.
Yeah, so the uppers are tall doors, like I forget the number now, 40 inches or something,
They're tall.
and they're narrow, like 40 by 15. So it's like this nice 3-door look on each side. What would you do for a color inside? Natural, like that natural pre-finished birch, or would you maple? I mean, where'd you
The
go?
doors are gonna be solid or glass?
Doors are like shaker panel.
Okay. What would I do inside? And it's gonna be gray on the outside, but it's big. You open it and it's big.
Because I initially, when we talked, I was like, how would you feel about pre-finished maple inside? And now I'm starting to go like, well, I wonder if a second color would be good, like a white.
A second color.
Like something that was a little bit of a surprise.
Like
typically
like
what
bright red.
what I in my experience, what I've
not bad. It's
seen
pretty
is
cool.
that the second color inside thing is typically done when it's an open cabinet, and when it's a closed cabinet, most of the time it's just pre-finished,
Right.
unpainted. And it to be honest with you, in sort of a functionality. For functionality reasons, I think I would just go with the pre-finished maple. It's
In
gonna
terms of, like-
it's gonna get banged up. It's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
It's a nice look. It's a great durable finish, and
That
you're
was
gonna be
my
putting
concern.
stuff in there and taking stuff out. And why apply finish that's just gonna get scratched up and whatnot
That was my thought.
Save me some time. So yeah, I am gonna spray finish
with
it,
a
though.
catalyzed finish. I hope
Wait, what?
with a catalyzed finish.
What do you know about spraying catalyzed finishes?
I know something.
What do you want me to use?
I'll get you the name.
Oh, you're talking about Cliff Ham? What he uses?
No, I'm talking about what we used on this cabinet that I worked. We used on the cabinets that we built this winter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did you spray it through? Like just an
Chris
HVLP
has
kind of a
got
thing?
one of these. Setups.
Pre-cat?
Pre-cat.
You don't know what the brand is?
I don't know the brand. It's French, I believe. Starts with an M.
But it's how did you deal with the fumes? Because I've been really liking working with the waterborne stuff because
It was waterborne.
Oh.
Correct. Amazing finishes, and you'll do it all in a day because they set up
You hear that,
so
Justin?
quickly.
You hear that?
You'll
Hey,
do all three. You'll do your primer coat, maybe 2 primer coats because the more you
right.
sand, the better.
He'll do it too.
And your 2 top coats all in a day.
Wait, 2 coats of primer?
yeah.
What if I just skip it all together? Can I just go right over the?
one coat of paint?
Yeah. Are we going for are we going for a sheen here, Rob? We're going to go matte finish.
Catalyzed.
We're going gloss.
What do you use on those cabinets that you built, and how did it look?
I believe it was a satin.
When you did that,
Sounds a good
did Chris
look.
do it in place? Because
No.
I mean, the tough part with this is having to deal with the trim. I mean, some of it I can finish off site. Some of it's going to have to be figured out and touched up in place.
We had
nail holes and
we
things.
had everything scribed and ready to go, ready to be installed, and then we sprayed.
And then you just shot nails through it and left them?
We didn't.
Left those exposed nail heads, Brian?
We didn't. Everything was installed with either some hidden screws or biscuits and glue.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Biscuits and glue.
Wow. Not bad, Brian. You really did have an education this winter.
Yeah.
You have upped the game.
Are you buying the doors and drawers?
Yes. Parker cabinet.
You know how excited I was that he was using that he's willing to use biscuits? I love biscuits, and everyone's moved away from biscuits. I love them.
Look,
He really does.
Look how excited you are.
Why do you love them so much?
Because I love a biscuit joiner. Although I will share that I actually had a mishap. It was a little bit embarrassing, but I actually had a mishap with a biscuit joiner. I always thought biscuit joiners were such safe tools to use, because you almost never see the blade. It's all,
almost never.
Except for this one time.
Except for this one time. Yeah, because you plunge and it's exposed when you're plunging and it's in the material and you take it out and it's retracted. And it seems like such a safe tool. And I've always felt like whether I was using the fence or a surface, like I've always felt like I had a good purchase on the work. And it's always just felt like such a safe tool and an easy tool to be precise with. Well, typical end of the day, brain is winding down. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon after working pretty hard all day, and I had to put
pretty hard.
pretty hard.
Not hard, but pretty hard.
And I had to put a biscuit slot in a tall cabinet up near the top of the cabinet, and instead that wasn't installed. It was sitting on the floor, and it was a heavy cabinet. I had put the other slots in it, no problem. Instead of repositioning the cabinet, I reached overhead to do it. And either I slipped or the cabinet slipped, and the biscuit joiner slipped, and blade came right out the inside edge and just mangled the inside edge of this cabinet, which was going to be an exposed open shelf cabinet.
So what'd you do?
After
you got scolded.
After I got scolded and I got over my embarrassment.
Yes, there's a lot of that on job sites.
Actually, Chris was great. He literally walked across the room, and this actually wrote about this in the story on Whole Fillers. He literally walked across the room without flinching, came back with his West System epoxy kit, and handed it to me. And I made a patch, and that stuff's amazing. So I took a router, made a little quick router jig, and I cut a rectangle out of the box and made a patch from another piece of plywood to stick in there, and then slathered epoxy all over it, clamped it up, came back the next day and sanded it smooth, and now those cabinets are finished, and you can't see it. But it was the first time I've ever had.
Well, they pre-finished. Oh, yeah, so it was painted.
This was going to be painted because it was an open.
Lucky.
I got really lucky there. But it was the first time I've ever had any kind of mishap, or even had a biscuit hole not end up where it was supposed to. It's always just seemed such a flawless system to me. But it was my first mishap with one.
I've had it want to walk sometimes because of the nature of the blade
They'll
spinning.
walk a little to the left.
Wants to slide a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a saw stop now.
Yes, he does.
I've only been talking about it for 5 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you digging it?
It is fantastic.
Cool.
And I mean,
have you accidentally triggered it?
And
yet?
I really want to make sure. No, I really want to make it clear that this is not. This is not. What is the term for when you're you're justifying the purchase because it was expensive? There's something, whatever that is. It's not that. It really is a fantastic tool, in terms of the quality of the build and everything. It's I've never seen cast iron that was as polished and nice looking. I actually did a double take when you peel off the little paper with the oil on it, and I'm like, wow, this is I was like, well, this must be what the other cast iron in my shop looks like, and go over to the jointer, and I'm just like, well, this looks like garbage now.
I agree with you. The one that we had for years in the shop down the road here, I thought that was one of the best saws I've ever.
It truly is the best saw I've ever used. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an endorsement.
They're pretty awesome, and you can just turn the stopping mechanism off.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm worried about?
When you need to do something dangerous, you can just override the mechanism.
You know what I'm worried about hitting that I feel like is most likely going to be a reason that it sets off for me is the little staple in the end of some boards where they put the UPC code, if you buy it at the home center. Yeah. Because those, on a regular table saw, it's plow right through that.
Just cut right through it.
Yeah. It'll hit you in the face. So that's the kind of thing that would set it off for me.
Yeah.
And I have the usual conundrums of how expensive do I want to go with a blade when I know that it might pop, and it's, of course, I'm explaining this to Erin at home, and she's like, well, what does it cost for a new for a new this and that. I'm like, well,
She's like,
cartridge is gonna be 80 something, and the blade's probably over 100 for a good one. And he's like, wow. And I was like, yeah, but even if it goes off for a bad reason, even if it goes off for a reason that wasn't a safety thing,
sure,
like a mishap, it's like that's still insurance is worth it, for the one time that it does, and you end up with 10 surgeries and a $200,000 medical bill. And it's the best saw I've ever used.
Yeah.
In addition to that, so why? What?
Didn't you have your grandfather's cabinet saw though?
I've had a few saws, but yeah, I had his Powermatic, an old contractor.
Just threw that right at the end of the old driveway, or what?
No, I sold it to a guy who was
that's
started
right.
in woodworking. Yeah, right. And then I had a Grizzly for a while, and it was underpowered. I couldn't get it, despite the horsepower rating. I couldn't get it to. It was bogging down, even with sharp blades, and so
cool.
So I upped the horsepower on this one.
I think it's great that you got that saw, and it's if you use it enough, you're gonna have an incidental.
Yeah,
and that's part of what when you buy it, and
right.
It's part of the expense of it. You're gonna hit a staple or decide to push something through that's a little too wet. The day you're working on a project in your yard, and you think, I'll just cut this pressure treated lumber that's been sitting outside. I'll just cut it on the saw stop.
Spewing water in your face.
Yeah. Well, like you said though, you can override it, so it's good.
You can override it in that situation, and you'll know too. It always makes me think. Remember when saw stop first came out? I feel like you could not get away from that video with the hot dog going through the saw. Like everywhere I looked.
Yeah.
I was seeing that video.
So, and you can mention it to people who don't know anything about it, and you're like, you've probably seen the video with the hot dog. Oh yeah, okay, I know that
saw.
song.
Yeah, that's all stuff.
Yeah, excellent.
It was great marketing.
Well, the guy actually did it with his actual finger at some point.
Yeah.
Like he put his finger on like a miter gauge and just like I think maybe it wasn't the miter gauge, but it's like you got to get to that point where it's like
I don't think it was a miter gauge, but that'd be awesome.
He put it in
at a 45 degree angle.
Yeah. He clamped his finger into a jig, slid it across the table.
Yeah.
That
didn't get as much reach as the hot dog though, for some reason.
No, yeah. I gotta think though that's a pretty.
I think everybody you're just hoping that you're going to actually get to see the hot dog. Because now I want to see a hot dog go through a table saw that's not a saw stop.
We could do a YouTube video on that. Cutting hot dogs.
Cutting hot dogs. Fine Homebuilding.
Yeah. All right. Well,
hey.
It's been nice catching up with y'all. As Gary Striegler would say, it's been real nice visiting with
y'all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you move to the South, you get to say y'all, which is a great term that works so well in so many situations.
Can you say ma'am to somebody and they won't get offended there?
I don't know yet. I'll let you know.
I really like ma'am.
Do you get a lot of honey down there?
You get some honey.
Yeah.
Sugar?
Yeah, you get that stuff.
That's great.
Darling? Yeah, I think I might move somewhere just so I can say y'all. I think that's a worthy reason.
I think so too.
It is.
I'll support that.
Yeah.
Although
more ridiculous things said on this podcast.
My prediction: Brian's beard is not going to make it this summer. Not with how hot it is.
But
he's softened up down in the
Dan
south.
said it yesterday.
In the southern sun.
There are people in the South with beards.
It's true. I don't think you're going to be one of them.
We'll see.
Hey,
all right.
Hit up info@keepcraftalive.org.
Visit finehomebuilding.com/summit.
Go to greenbuildingadvisor.com.
All right, everybody. We will talk to you again when we talk to you. In the meantime, keep craft alive. Happy building.